Hello, welcome to Consecrated Life. Today's topic is Jesus Heals. We're so glad you're here. And this is Kendra Burton, who's joining me today. She is the amazing artist who drew the picture that goes along. I have my little bookmark here. You saw it last week. And she drew this beautiful picture. And it inspires me so much. So I'm really glad that she's here with us today to share a little bit about her story and her journey to using her gifts to spread the joy and to do what God needs her to do on this earth. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Livia.
Thank you very much. So first, just tell us a little bit about you. What's your family like? Where do you live?
I grew up in Pocatello, Idaho. I was the oldest of 5 sisters. We all liked to sing together. At one point, all of us were age 18 to 13. We all liked to sing, and that was a fun time for me. I did architectural drafting with my dad for 7 years, and then I branched out into the fine art field. And I love art, and I love music, and I love sharing it. So is that good?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. And then what are you passionate about? Obviously passionate about art. What other things are you passionate about? And music.
That was my answer, art and music.
That's fine.
But if I had to add something in addition to that, it would be helping other people to find their own creativity. I love anything that is creative. And that has been like a life's mission for me, to help other people learn how they can create things in every different way, not just music and art, but all kinds of different things.
That's cool. What's your favorite thing that you've done with that? Like, do you have a story or something where you were helping someone find their creativity? And what would you suggest for maybe somebody who's listening who's like, how do I find it?
Well, I would say it is specifically in art, to help other people find their creativity. I have taught for probably, I can't even remember how many years. I think since I was, since I was in my 20s, and I'm 60 right now. And so all of those years I have taught people, and I try to make it so that whatever they paint, that it can be successful. Sometimes they choose things that I have taught in like workshops or what I've taught on television. But if they bring in something else that they want to do, maybe it's their puppy dog, or maybe it's their grandchild or something. And so I help them find that creativity.
That's beautiful. Do you do that one-on-one, or do you do like paint nights where somebody, if they wanted you to come to them, you would go and do a workshop for them if they organized it? How does that work?
I have weekly classes that people come to, and it's like a party, honestly. Every week I have an afternoon class and an evening class, and we come and we share everything. So it's not only creativity as in when you're done you get a painting, but it also is creativity in the way that we share all kinds of different things. I had one person come to class, and when she was done, she said, this is more than just an art class. Already I learned what movies I'm supposed to see. I learned some good books to read, and I got some new recipes.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's not always like that, but I think it is part of the experience.
Yeah, just that connection to other people and the ability to share. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I think so too. That is what I would say I'm passionate about.
Very cool.
Being able to do that and share.
Interested in a class, obviously this can be watched now or later or whatever, but how would they find out what classes you're involved in? Like if they say, I want to learn from her.
Probably the easiest way to reach people all over the place is if they went to my website, and then there's a place that you can leave comments, and then you could say, I'm interested in classes, and I'll give you what information you need. I teach not only weekly classes, but you asked me if I teach privately. Yes, we do. I make that available. So
awesome.
I just remember when I was first learning to paint, I had an instructor, and I thought, I just need a little extra help. And I asked if she ever taught private lessons, and she said, oh, I could, but you couldn't afford it. And I felt really bad. And maybe the truth was I couldn't afford it, but I still wanted to have the option. And so I have tried to make it very affordable and to make it possible for people to create however they can.
That's beautiful. So what's your website if people want to go there? Where would they go?
It's really easy. It's kendraburton.com.
Beautiful. Okay, we'll link that in the email that you get as well, so that they can just click on the link and I'll make it easy.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so you share a little bit with us about your story, finding your mission, finding your purpose. Have you always known it was art, or was there some series of events that happened when God said, hey, here's your path, do this?
I remember being so young and thinking, I really want to be able to, well, first of all, I thought it was drawing. When I was 4, I drew life-size people on the back of my closet. And thank goodness my mom left it there for a while, but they were as tall as I was. And I just thought, oh, that's really cool. I am going to, draw these people and they can be my friends. And so I remember having that desire way back then. I remember being 10 years old, and since I was in Pocatello, there was a reservoir called American Falls Reservoir, and we could go boating there, and I just loved looking at the water. I absolutely love the patterns, the reflections, and I remember at 10 looking off the boat and saying, how would I paint that? How would I paint that someday? And then when I was 11, I started a little neighborhood club called the Good Color Agency. So I think it's kind of been there all along. Also, when I was 10, I remember getting my first guitar and experimenting with that. And I feel really fortunate that I was able to learn the piano. And so it's all of that. I think from a young age, thinking I love music and I love artwork and then just observing. I think there's something incredibly amazing when anyone can do this, being aware of things around you, if that makes sense. So can I tell one cute little story about some friends that were artists? I had 2 friends that were artists and another friend, she was a school teacher and a musician. She played the violin. And one time we were together visiting, and the 2 friends that were artists, they said, oh, did you see that sky yesterday morning? It was so beautiful. It had all of these like clouds that were billowing. And I just thought if I used like a little bit of crimson on the edges, and if I put some cadmium yellow, and then the horizon of the sky was cerulean, and then a little bit of ultramarine at the top of the sky. And I'm like, wow, I'm sorry that I missed that. And then the other gal said how wonderful it was. So both artists had seen it. And apparently there were lots of clouds but amazing colors. And the other friend that was the musician and who was also the school teacher, she said, it's amazing how you see things differently, because she said, I saw that morning sky with all those clouds and I just thought, oh darn, it's gonna rain again today.
Oh.
So it's interesting how observing things can change how you see the world, I think.
That's beautiful. Well, and what a story too, that God can give us something so gorgeous, and some people can choose to be like, how annoying.
To see the incredible beauty, and some choose to see the rain coming. So yeah, a very good life lesson.
Yeah, and in anything that you do, like you can always see the good or the bad. So if you ever find yourself stuck in that, this is stinky place, just say, well, what can I learn?
What's the beauty in it?
In this moment. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. Right. So it sounds like you've kind of had that your whole life. Did you feel like there was a turning point, especially within like your Christian art and these bigger, more extensive things and the murals and the things you've been doing lately? Was there a turning point of like kind of feeling like I need to go bigger? I need to like let people know who I am versus just keep it to myself? And when
I appreciate the question worded how you did. I feel like it isn't about me, but I have tried to say, how can I be the messenger, if that makes sense? So how can I help people find either peace in their lives? How can I help them find healing? How can I help them feel love? How can I help them see a greater power beyond themselves to find Christ? And so I think that is part of the, for me, the passion and the life's journey to help people do that. So
And
thanks
have
for
you
that
always
question.
felt that, like, in your heart? Has that always been there, or at any point were you hesitant? Like, what if people, like, the first time you put your stuff out there and said, "Look at what I did," or was that
So
your whole life you'd always been doing it, so it was just natural?
I had a blessing once that said, born in your disposition is a love for your fellow creatures and a desire to help them.
That's beautiful.
And then it says, magnify this by your own efforts. And so I feel that from a very young age, that was to be what it was, a love for my, and it's interesting, it said fellow creatures, but fellow human beings and maybe, other creatures as well, but that there was a desire in me to help them. And then I would magnify that in whichever way I could. And so for me, it specifically is art, but in community, I mean, I've done a lot of other things like music and helping in that way.
That's beautiful.
Did that help? Did that answer it?
Yeah, for sure. It comes out however it comes. That's great. So in consecrating our life to God, part of that is being generous. And I feel like everything you do is, how do I serve? How do I help? How do I bring people to Him? And that's beautiful. And we were talking before, and you told me about your little card about lessons. Will you share with them what that gift is that you're giving them? And so that they'll be looking forward to that email.
So I will give a little bit of background so that you can maybe understand the life lessons that we have learned. And I say we as in myself, my husband, and our family. Well, we had 3 children, and we were expecting what we thought was number 4. But in the 5th month of pregnancy, we found out we were having twins. And not only that, that one of the twins would be born with a condition called hydrocephalus, which is water on the brain. And they really did not think that she would live past birth. And so a doctor as well as a nurse said, you may want to make funeral arrangements before the babies are born, then you don't have to think about it afterwards. And I just felt like we should wait and see. And we had twins, Sarah and Rachel, and Rachel was with us for 9 years. She, when she was born, oh boy, this will be a bit emotional for me, but they said in her head she had only 20% brain tissue, and she had 80% fluid. And so they had to operate on her right away to put a shunt in her head to drain the fluid. It had already caused much brain damage. But she stayed with us for quite a few years. We learned so much from her. We learned so much from her twin sister. We have learned so much from what our other children have taught us about loving and caring unconditionally. Sorry about that. But in life's lessons learned, hopefully you will be able to feel some of the things that we have learned, and that this life is not the end. It's not the beginning and it's not the end. Our lives go on. And Rachel stayed with us for 9 years. She never was able to walk or to talk or to eat. She was fed in a feeding tube all 9 years of her life. But the things that she and the other siblings taught us were so valuable that it's almost hard to comprehend unless you've lived it. But that's a little bit of the story. The first year was incredible when we had the twins, partly because the sick twin had so many medical things. We had all kinds of, heart rate monitor and oxygen and feeding tube and so forth. And then the healthy twin, when she was only 5 weeks old, she stopped breathing. And so we ended up having to put monitors on her. And for the first year up through the third year, our schedule was like this. Dave, my husband, would go to work in the morning, and he would come home, try to eat dinner as quickly as he could, and then I would stay up till about 2, and then I would do all that we had to do to manage them, and he would get up at 2 in the morning and then again stay up through the day and part of the night, and it really was pretty relentless for a long time. There's a painting that I did, if you go online, that's called He Restoreth My Soul. And if you don't know the story, it's hard to say. And I didn't bring, here's what I could do. I can take you to the original in the living room. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, let's do it.
And I'll tell you the story. Okay, so, oh yeah, I have to realize where we're looking here. So this is the living room, and I'll take you to where I have that painting. Let me see if you can see it.
Oh yeah, I have that. I love that.
Yay! I'm glad you do. So this is my older daughter, Andrea, and we had respite provided for us for 5 days. And Rachel was taken care of at a facility, and we were able to go to Bear Lake. I got white dresses and wide-brimmed hats for the 2 older girls. And the reason I painted this is to remember the calm in the middle of the storm and the sunshine. And when I was trying to figure out a title, I decided to call it He Restoreth My Soul, because that's how it felt. So it was good to have that time away and to heal and to feel God's light and his love and spend time with the family and then move on. And it's been really helpful. Do you want me to kind of pan here while I'm in this room?
While you're here, show us a few others.
Okay, so this one's that one's above my fireplace. That one is a painting that's in Brigham City, Peach Orchard Sunset. And then there's a large mural. Ooh, I hope you can see that. Can you see it above the couch?
Perfect.
That I painted after we had worked on the Ochre Mountain Temple. And I used a similar color scheme to one of the rooms there, and also something similar to the draper. Hopefully it's not too glary. Sometimes it gets a funny glare. I'll try to walk to the side to see if it changes the color a little bit.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Just walk a little.
Sorry.
Just walk a little closer to it so you can see the detail.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, so you can see detail. That's true. Like, I love this waterfall part of it.
And is that an oil or is that a watercolor?
So this one's actually oil, although I do quite a bit with acrylic. This mountain was fashioned after one from my home state of Idaho. And I love aspens. I also wanted to show you, and some of you have seen this one before, but this is, oh, there we go. Well, you can see that. I know it's kind of glary with the light here in the living room. Maybe you can see it better at that angle. I call this one Compassionate Christ. I had someone ask me to tell them my thoughts about that painting, and I said, if I didn't paint one other painting in my whole life,
oh, I think you're frozen. Are you there? Can you hear me?
I feel like it was meaningful by painting this one.
That's beautiful. Will you say that one more?
Are we still off?
Your phone cut out for a sec.
Okay. I had an incoming call, but I don't know how to not do that.
Oh, okay.
I'll pan over some of these. These are some of the other pictures that you could see online. Each picture I do has a story. For instance, well, I'll just tell you about the grapes. See the grapes and the wheat? Together, they create the first fruits of the sacrament.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there are a lot of different things that have meaning and stories, but we'll get back here.
No, that's good. Beautiful. Thank you. Hey, so that's the gift. They will get all these lessons. That'll be in their email. They'll be able to get that when they get their email. So check your email, people. Check your email. And okay, then we were talking a little bit about your daughter, about what kind of resistance and opposition have you faced in trying to do your art? So I know most people I talk to, when they're trying to do something awesome for God, all kinds of things happen. So what kind of resistance have you had? How do you get through it and keep going and doing what you're here to do when the opposition hits?
That is such a good question about opposition. I would say part of it is when you're in a really heavy duty situation, it's very easy to get discouraged and to feel like, why do I even bother? And I will tell you, sometimes when I gather up all my artwork and I go to art shows, I mean, it takes not just a day, it takes weeks to prepare for that, and sometimes months, painting different things, finding just the right frames, transporting them, and so forth. And boy, I'll tell you, when you are in the midst of that and you're trying to, I mean, we had so many trips by either life flight helicopter or ambulance during Rachel's life, that there were days when I would just think, well, why should I even bother to do this? But I also feel when that happens, I think it's really important to keep that attitude, but when that happens, that there must be a reason for those things happening. I'll give you for instance, that happened to me yesterday. I was giving a presentation at a place where it was for the youth and their leaders. And we set up all of the paintings, and we had this a big screen set up so the projector could show some videos. And when it was time for the meeting to start, the presentation book that I had all my notes in and everything typed up in, it was nowhere to be found. We found it later. Someone had turned it into the lost and found. I don't know why it wasn't there. And boy, I'll tell you, when you're doing a presentation, you want to have your notes. Usually, at least I do. But I just thought there must be a reason that this happened like it did, because I needed to just speak from the heart and share stories and kind of listen to the Spirit and be able to reach people that way. So yeah, opposition. I mean, maybe somebody would say, okay, I guess I can't do this, or let's just have questions or something. But usually you can tell if you're headed in a, let's see, you can usually tell if there's a strong purpose for you if you have a lot of opposition. Yeah. There's one other thing that this brings to mind. Once I was asked to do some music for a stake function, and their theme was called The Refiner's Fire. And I couldn't find a song that I thought fit it like we needed to have it done. And so I just kept kind of contemplating what would be a message that would talk about the refiner's fire. And it came to me, one of the lines in there says, opposition in all things, appreciation it will bring. And I thought, that is so amazing. And I really felt very, very influenced by Rachel during that time of putting together a song that talked about the refiner's fire. And in the chorus part of the song, it says, as the Savior showed the way, I will promise and obey. I'll walk the refiner's fire. And then the next line says, I'll drink the cup. And it made me think about the Savior. It doesn't mean that we all are like, okay, bring it on. I want to go through these challenges so that I can learn so much. I mean, some people might do that. That wouldn't necessarily be me. But if we follow what the Savior showed us, it would be that we may say, if it's possible, take this cup from me. But nevertheless, thy will be done. And when we say that, I do believe that we can gain strength, even though the journey's hard. I did bring, you can find that song, by the way, in a free download on my website. It has sheet music as well as the words. And my friend Becky is singing it. And there are several songs like that, that if you want to listen to them, they have a message. But is it okay if I show another painting with a message?
Yeah.
Is that okay? So, well, I hope, does that look pretty good without a glare?
Pull it a little bit closer. Go ahead and hide your face for a second.
About right. Okay, so about right there.
Yeah, Alex.
Now I'll explain about this picture. It is called the highest mountain, and maybe I'll go even a little closer so you can see it in more detail. Does that look pretty good?
Yeah.
So this is Mount Bora, which is the highest mountain in my home state of Idaho. And we were traveling in the rain for hours to try to get there, because it's obviously way up in the middle of the mountains, and it's kind of in the middle of the state. I hope, is it straight?
You're good.
Oh,
You
there
can
we go.
just go back better. We know what it looks like now. You can put it there if you want to.
Is that good right there?
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, oh, it's raining this whole time. By the time we get there, we may just see clouds. I won't even be able to see the top of the mountain. And so I was really concerned about that. And of course, my goal was to see the highest mountain in Idaho. But as we came around the bend, the clouds parted and the sun, the most amazing, magnificent sunset happened. And there were golds and pinks and blues all over in the sky. There was even a rainbow at the right-hand side of the sky. And I just thought, isn't this amazing? This reminds me of our life's journey. So at first we start on the path of our life, but it may turn in unexpected directions. So you can see the path turns. And maybe we'll find thorns or thistles along the way. And it also may descend into what I call the valley of shadows. I can't tell if it's too glary. Maybe that would help it look better. That angle.
The picture online too, right?
What's that?
They can see that one on your website too.
Oh, you can see this online.
Okay.
That's true.
Go ahead and put it down and just tell us the story, and then they can look at it closer on.
So each time, I'll hurry quickly because I want you to look at it while I say it. Okay. Each time in our lives, I don't think there's anyone that doesn't go through the valley of shadows. But if we keep pressing forward and keep climbing to the top, we can reach the highest mountain. And then we can turn around and look back over our lives. We'll realize that the sun shines through and we can see our lives from a new perspective. And then we can find purpose in the journey of every experience in our lives. So that, to me, also helps us understand about going through adversity and through the refiner's fire as well.
That's beautiful. I love that. So our topic today was Jesus Heals, because that picture, that's what you call it, Jesus Heals. And what was the inspiration behind that? And what meaning does it have in your life? Does looking at that help you in those moments when you feel you need his strength?
So I will take you on another little journey to see the painting that is the actual painting. And now that you have a little bit of background, you can understand what it's about. And I'll see if I can line this up. So this painting, actually, if I stand right by it, it is 6 feet tall.
It's life size.
So Christ, if you stand in front of it, I wanted the idea to be that you could feel like you were standing in front of him specifically. And so I painted it 6 feet tall, but I'll tell you the story that goes along with it. When Rachel passed away, see, let me get here a little bit further. Can you see it in
Down
how
just a
big
bit.
it is?
There you go. Yep.
So yes, you can see this online too. So I'm going to probably go back out to the other location. When our daughter Rachel passed away, she was 9 years old. It affected everyone. And so our daughter Sarah, who was her twin sister, she did pretty well at first, but then when she became a teenager, and I don't know quite how that works, that maybe things change as we become teenagers, but it was a time that became very difficult for her. And I remember one day she came home and she was just so sad and so overwhelmed. And I said, Sarah, excuse me, I just want you to lay down on the bed. And so she laid down on my bed in the master bedroom, and I just laid beside her. And then a thought came to my mind, and I feel like it was really important for her to hear, but for me to hear, and then eventually for me to share. And what I told her was, it seems like you are carrying so many burdens. I know that for her specifically, it was very difficult to be the surviving twin, the surviving sister. And I know that there were times when she felt like she wishes it could have been her that went to heaven. And so I knew she was carrying around many, many heavy burdens. And I said, I want you to picture your burdens as if you have a whole armful of rocks. And the rocks represent every trial, every decision, everything that is a burden to you. And I said, now I want you to picture yourself in a very peaceful place, and you see the Savior coming toward you. And as he comes toward you, he reaches out his hands, and I don't know if you can see this, but you saw it in the picture. Yeah. He reaches his hands toward you, and he wants you to take all of those burdens and place them in his hands. And as you do that, it doesn't weigh him down. He has already paid the price. So when your stones touch his hands, what I envisioned was that they literally melted away into this shimmery golden water that fell to the ground and just disappeared, and the burdens were gone. And that's what I wanted to help her learn, is that she, through the atonement of Jesus Christ, we do not have to carry all of those heavy things that have happened to us in our lives. Sometimes there are things that have happened to us because we've made choices. Sometimes there are things that happen to us because we are living life. But I am sorry, boy, I guess I'm pretty emotional today because of this subject that is just so tender and dear to me. I love being able to see Christ with his hands open to me. And there are times when I literally feel like I speak to him, and I tried to capture an expression that was understanding and loving. He has a smile on his face. He isn't judgmental, and he is there to accept anything that we have done. And I'm just so grateful. And it sounds really weird that I got to be the one to paint it, but I really feel like I'm the messenger, that I have been privileged to be the messenger to bring that message to anyone who needs it, which I would say is all us. So I hope that covered most of what you were thinking.
That is gorgeous. And I loved hearing, because I haven't actually heard that whole story before about the behind the scenes of it. But I know that for me, when I was first at, I believe it was an energy healing conference, and you had brought that huge one, and I walked by and I was just like, whoa. Like I just had to go back and take a picture with my phone. I'm like, look what I just found. And then find you afterwards, after the poem came to me. But it was just this, that's what I feel every time I look at it, is that he's there, he's waiting, but he's not going to take it from us. It's our agency. We have to.
We hand it to him.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
There, and
there was just,
he wants to. If he wants to heal us.
yes, if we let him. And I know the key is that all we have to do is ask. We knock on the door and we ask, and it will be given to us. But so many times people, I think, get in the position where they feel like they're not worthy to ask, and so they feel like they won't. And I think the first step is he's there with his hands open wide, and we just need to ask, and then we can be healed. We can have him take our burdens, and we don't have to carry them anymore.
That is beautiful. I love that. Can you think of a time in your life when it looked like you had failed in the eyes of the world, and then you learned something from it?
So that's a really, really good question. And I think always when we're young, we have like maybe grand ideas of things we think we are supposed to do. And so I think it's important for people to realize, especially for women, I think men as well, but if we think, oh man, you know, I am just, I don't even know if they use the term housewife anymore, or I'm just a mom. I remember there are times when I have thought, oh dear, you know, here I'm trying to accomplish this, and I keep just being unable to do that. And then a person may feel like a failure, like all I do is children. And boy, in our case, it was a lot of medical things all the time, and emergencies and that kind of thing. And I believe there could have been a time where I felt like maybe a failure at creating, or a failure in maybe being the kind of mother, you know, that I would hope that my children would want to have. But I have, you know, I'm going to turn this. I forget you guys can see this. I'm going to show you something that I have in my kitchen that I think is really important, that answers that about failure, maybe. Let's see if I can help you. Can you see that statue of Christ?
There are no mistakes, only lessons.
Yes. I so totally believe that. And I think that is really important for us when we feel like we are a failure, to remember that there are no mistakes. Even if you think they are gigantic mistakes, that it is the lesson that's the important part. I know I have a ton more I could share with you, but our time might be up. Are we close?
I've got a couple more questions for you. I have a young friend who needs me, so you go ahead and explain maybe that one right behind you a little bit about that, because I'm sure people have been like admiring it the whole time you're speaking. So
well, thank you. And I just love the sea. I just love the idea of having colors. I absolutely love colors. And in this picture, it's actually 4 feet tall and 6 feet wide. And it's in my dining room. And so every day we get to feel like we've gone to this tropical place, and we can feel like the breeze that's coming through. And then we can see the sunshine kind of reflecting on the water, and the clouds are amazingly colorful. And so that I think is a really fun thing that we get to have here at our house. So there's, oh, sorry, that echoed kind of funny. There's one other painting that, well, and I guess you could go online to see it too, but it's called Joseph the Guardian. I remember when I painted that, I just knew that I wanted to paint Joseph holding baby Jesus because he was given such a great responsibility and trust to be his guardian. And I remember when I was sketching it, my husband said, well, where does Mary go? Because you have like Joseph and you have the baby. And I just said, this is supposed to be about fathers. And even specifically about fathers who have adopted the children, because he wasn't, as we understand it, he wasn't the birth father. And that has been a very meaningful piece. I don't know if I should try to show you at least a picture, or they can go online.
They can
Should
go
we do
online,
it that way?
yeah.
Okay. Joseph the Guardian was the one I
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love that one too. I have that one too.
Thank you.
Have you found any moment when you thought you were doing what you were supposed to be doing, and then God said, nope, go this way? Like where he changed your course on you and you were kind of like, oh, I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And it wasn't that you were doing anything bad, but just that now he's taking me a different direction than I had ever expected.
Wow. Boy, there are all kinds of places where the road curved in a different way, kind of like that painting. Specifically, yes, having our twins, but also I think now that most of our children are out of the house, and not only that, they are having families of their own, then it's finding a new direction there to say, oh, okay, now where am I supposed to be headed? One specific thing that I can think about is that in college, I studied education to become a school teacher. And the interesting thing is that I didn't pursue that and ended up going into art more. And I think, I remember at one point in time, I thought, oh, why didn't I concentrate on that more or make that a priority? But ultimately, I really believe that I was supposed to do the art and the music, even though I love kids, even though I love teaching. But this way I can teach and still not have to fill out all the paperwork that those wonderful school teachers have to.
That's awesome. So he did. He guided you. Had a plan, and you were working.
I feel like he did.
Yeah, I find a lot of times that's how it works. You have your plan, and you're working towards your goal of what you think you're supposed to do. And then he's like, "Good, you're doing great. Now go this way.
Now let's turn. Now here's a curve."
Yeah. So
exactly.
if you guys are going through something like this, and you're like, "I feel like I'm doing things, but I'm feeling like I need to do something else," go talk to God, pray, and write him a letter, talk to him, and figure out, do you really want me to do this? And then
you said something interesting. Write him a letter.
Yeah.
I love that idea. So one of my friends, Tammy, you probably know Tammy Goebel.
Mm-hmm.
She just published a book, Letters. Is it Letters from God or Letters to God? I think it's from God, or from heaven. That's what it is. Letters from heaven. And one of my daughters was advised when she had a prayer, write your prayer down. And I know she did this in a notebook, and it was, "Dear Heavenly Father, this is the thing that I don't understand, or this is the thing I wish could be maybe a little different. Help me learn and help me know." I think that is such great advice.
Have you ever done it?
Yeah. But what I should do it more. Now that I'm advising it, I'm like, yeah, let's do it more.
No, it is.
But part of it too is that you can go back and say, oh, this one was answered. I wrote about this and that resolved itself, and I wasn't even paying attention to the answer. That's another thing too, is when it's written down, you can pay attention to when you get the answer.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the other thing to remember is that sometimes the answer, maybe they're yes or they're no, but sometimes the answer is yes, but not now. And I think those are hard for those of us who, like myself, may be hoping for a little bit more patience. And I try never to pray for patience, but I think I'm given that challenge often.
Well, you either chosen, you're either compelled or you compel yourself. So
There
either
we go.
ask for it or
Exactly.
harder. One thing that I decided a while ago, because I know this about, you get to choose your own belief, right? You can choose to see the good, you can choose to see the bad.
Oh,
I choose that I'm on the path to become sanctified and to do everything that he wants. And I choose that I learn through joyful experiences. Because if I can
I love that.
joyful experiences, then I don't have to deal with the really hard stuff because I got the lesson the nice way.
Yes, let's do that one. Oh my. I think it's accepting what challenges have come your way. My husband would tell you that I might be a little different in that, because I am really not a happy camper when it comes to hard life lessons, but I do know it helps you grow stronger. When I speak to people, I often use the analogy of the diamond in the rough. How do we create a diamond in the first place? How is it? Well, and people that are watching, it's through pressure and it's through heat. Mm-hmm. And that is how we get these strongest diamonds. And if they didn't have the pressure and the heat, they would crumble and fall apart. I was taught a lesson by my dad, who was an architect, and he used to do building as well. He said when he was younger, they would make instruments where they would temper the steel. And he explained to me how they do that. And so what they do is they take, let's say, a metal rod, and they put it into the fire, and it heats it until it is glowing with like orangey yellow. It's so glowing, and it's so hot that it's pliable. And then they take it out of the fire, and then literally they pound it into the right shape. And that's part of creating the thing that's going to be really strong. And he said then they would dip it in oil. I've heard oil or water to cool it off. And if it kept its shape and didn't come apart, then it would become tempered steel, not just regular steel. And tempered steel is the strongest steel that you can have. And so these analogies, I think, are very interesting in helping us realize, wow, do we want to become the strongest steel? Do we want to become the most beautiful diamond? And that tells us what it takes to get there.
Yeah, it does. That is beautiful. Do you have a favorite quote or a scripture or something that comes to your mind a lot?
I do. I have a favorite scripture, but is this bad? I probably could say it pretty much word for word if I weren't on. And I meant to have it right here so I could read it. But one of my favorites is in D&C 50 D&C section 50, verse 24. Wow, and it basically talks about light. Do you know it?
For that which is God is light, and he that receiveth light and continueth in God receiveth more light, and that light groweth brighter and brighter until the perfect day.
And that light groweth brighter and brighter until the perfect day. I love that. When I paint, I want to paint so that it shows light. I want to gain more light, and I want the light to grow brighter and brighter until the perfect day.
Awesome.
Yay, Livia, I'm so proud of you for knowing that.
And my 5-year-old has it memorized, because we would say it every morning until everybody memorized it. So
well, there's a painting. Thank you for sharing that. There's a painting that I was working on, and it's a girl. You'll have to go look it up. I mean, I could show you here, but it's called Enlightened. And it's a girl that is reading a book. She's in a white. What's that?
That's my daughter. She looks just like that, and she loves to read. So I bought her that one, and she has it hanging on her wall.
Oh, and see, and I put that scripture with that.
Oh, you
But
did?
it's a girl. Yeah, it should. Well, hopefully it came on the back of yours. But I was painting it, and I had a friend who's an author while I was painting it, and we talked on the phone. And I said, "Oh, I love how the light is working in this painting. So I have light from the sky, like the sun, that's lighting up her hair, and it's kind of all this side of her." And I said, and I love the light that's coming from the book, and it's lighting up her face as well. And she said, "Oh, that's a double entendre." And I'm like, I can't, how do you spell that again? But basically it's a double meaning. But the interesting thing is the light from above and the light from the book also have a double meaning. So the light from the sun can also be considered the light from the sun, S-O-N instead of S-U-N, that is shining down on her. And the light from the book can be the light reflected, but it also represents the light that is the knowledge that is going to her mind as she reads the book. So yay, I'm so glad you have that for your daughter.
Yeah, that's beautiful. She loves it too. But another thing that I thought as you were talking about that is not just the light that he's there, but the light that he fills us with.
Oh, yes.
Because Christ fills us with that light, as well as he's inspiring people. Like he's inspired you to do these paintings. He inspires other people to write books. And as we put those things in our space and we read them and we look at them, it is that light reflected back at us. So when people choose to get your art, that brings light into their home. When they choose to read the inspired book, that she brings more light. It says, "Seek ye wisdom out of the best books."
The whole being.
And
yes.
It's not just church books, but it's books that God, because personal revelation is so real, that God gives us each our own thing. So if there's a message inside of you that you feel drawn to publish it because somebody needs it. And then they will get what they need, and that light will be reflected through your words and whatever it is that you create.
Well, I think what you say too is, when you said publish it, I remember working on Joseph the Guardian, and see, Rachel was still with us. And so I painted on it, and then she went to a special school for special needs kids, and the bus came to pick her up. And I told the bus driver and her assistant, sorry, I'm going to have, it's funny you guys got a drink. I'm like, I need a drink. I said, "Do you want to see what I'm working on?" And so I showed them Joseph the Guardian, and he was holding baby Jesus. And I said, it's coming along kind of slow because I have all these other things going on. and I said, it's like 5 weeks. It's taken me 5 weeks, but I couldn't work on it every single day. And the assistant on the bus, she said, "Okay, so 5 weeks, you're saying that's a long time? I don't think I could do it in my whole lifetime, so 5 weeks isn't that long." Anyway, that was nice of her and encouraging of her to say that. But as I was painting it, well, I not just painting it, I remember taking pictures of my Joseph model. And I thought, well, this is great. Now I've got pictures, and I will paint that later, because sometimes they just do it like that. And there was a really, really strong impression that it needed to be painted right away. And I wouldn't have known this at the time. I didn't know, but the Spirit knew that I had just barely finished painting it, and Rachel passed away right after that. And I have wondered if I had delayed, if I may not have chosen to do it, or if I just wouldn't have finished it. So it's amazing how timing can happen, and those impressions, when it says, "Get this done, get this out there," that can make a difference.
Well, I kind of wonder too, in you saying that, when you said it's the picture of Joseph holding baby Jesus, did you ever put yourself in that place of, I was the steward of this Rachel, and I was the one called to care for her? And
yes,
maybe in that aspect, it could have given you strength in the healing.
I appreciate that insight. So I did think about that, but I also thought about baby Jesus as a type for Rachel. And I remember after she passed away, going back to her school, Jordan Valley School for all the special needs kids, and presenting a canvas of that painting to them so that they would see the symbolism in all of those who cared for my daughter, especially those incredible teachers, to see themselves as a type for Joseph with our little Rachel. So yes, it can be very, very symbolic.
That is beautiful.
Oh, and then I had one other person, she bought it and she said, I just want, on her check, she wrote, my Jesus. And I said, well, Jesus is the baby and Joseph's the one holding her. And she goes, well, I just want this to be Jesus and I want to be the baby. This is me and I will call it my Jesus so that he can hold me. And I thought that was a really
cool
good
too.
way to see it. I know, I felt like that too.
But it's just like in the scriptures, they can say the same thing. You can read it 5 times and at a certain point in your life, it means something different to you. So it's
yeah, just like that.
That he can use it to mean whatever we need it to mean at that moment.
Right. And so for her, she wanted to be comforted by the guardian, Joseph the guardian. And so that became Jesus in her life. So yeah, it's really interesting how that can happen.
That is very beautiful. Hey, do you have any other nuggets of wisdom that you feel you want to share with people who are striving to live their path and do it confidently, no matter what might come up for them? And just trusting, that God's way is the right way, even if the whole world thinks, what in the heck are you doing? It doesn't make sense maybe necessarily from the world's perspective.
I would want to tell everyone, never, ever give up, because there are so many different directions in this world and in this life that pull our attention away from our focus. And so many things, especially I feel in this generation, that make us feel not worthy, not good enough. But if we realize that we are never alone. So it's interesting. I rarely try to use like negatives like never, but this is important. Never give up and realize that you are never alone. There are loved ones from the other side. Boy, I can feel them around. There are loved ones from the other side for every single person, every single one who has come to this earth. Always remember that you are surrounded by loved ones. We have a Father in heaven who loves us. We have an elder brother, but we have loved ones who are there to help us through this life, and they will help us. They will come to us when we need them. Maybe it will be in a dream, maybe it will be in other ways, but you are never alone. There is always someone that is with you, even if you feel that you can't see them. I think that's really, really, really important as a message to share, that you will always be able to, if you will feel it, you can know that you will be comforted and that you will always have those who are there willing to help you.
That's beautiful. I have one amazing experience that I feel that I need to share at this time, because it's all about Jesus healing. And you were talking about people from the other side and our ancestors and people who are there to help us. And there was a time, probably about a year ago, I was inspired to do this one-day event, and I had the whole thing figured out and everything was like falling apart in the meantime. So I got it all done, and I had like 3 people signed up to go, and my one friend is the only one who showed up. So we like did this in the gym at this school, and we did this whole presentation thing, and I was given the gift to know that that room was full. Not physically,
I love that.
Not physically full, but it was spiritually full, and had this amazing experience to see that the person that needed it the most, and some of my ancestors that I was given to know that they were there, but to know that there were people on the other side who needed what I was preparing to teach. So God told me to prepare, but they were not allowed to come forward had that room been full of mortals.
That is beautiful.
So to just remember that, and no matter what it is that you're doing, whether it's a book or it's a seminar, or it's a class or a painting or whatever it is, if you're following an inspiration to do what you're supposed to do, just trust that it's going to reach the right people, whether they're fleshy human people or they're spiritual beings. But as long as you're following the impression, you're doing what's right.
That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Livia, for sharing that.
Thank you for being with us very much. I appreciate it. Okay, and then you had a special offer for everyone here. So if anyone wants some of Kendra's paintings, or if you would like to order anything off of her website, what is it that they will get with their order?
So if you place an order, and it doesn't matter how small the order is, I would like to gift you a 4x6 painting print gift. And all you need to do is specify which one you would like to have included with your order, and I will put that in there. But you need to say on the comment section on the website that you heard my interview with Livia, and tell me which painting it is that you would like to have as your gift, and I will send it.
And then give her your top 3 options, just in case she's out of one, then she'll pick one of your top 3. Give her 3 options.
Yeah, maybe write down your top 3. I think that's a good idea. Put your top 3, and I will be glad to share that with you.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you very much. Now I encourage all of you, go check your email. You'll get all the information on the free gifts, the links to her website and all of that stuff. If you're not already in the Facebook group, check the email, click on the Facebook link, and you can be involved with the Consecrated Life Series on there, where you can interact with other people who are going through this same experience, maybe share things that are going on in your life, and ask for help and allow us to support you and share the insights maybe that we've learned in the process of consecrating our life, and that we can all help each other and become closer to who we're meant to be. So thank you so much for joining us. If anything left you would like to say?
Well, I just appreciate you helping people find joy. Thank you, Livia.
Yes, thank you. See you later.